Hello, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Music. My name is Ethan. As always, I'm joined by my father, Paul. And this is episode 2 of our podcast, so if you are enjoying it, please let us know. On this episode, we're looking at Alice Cooper's 1975 solo album, Welcome to My Nightmare. Welcome to My Nightmare is a concept album, much like the last album we covered on episode 1. With that being said, as a concept album, all songs are linked, and when played in sequence, they tell us the story of Stephen, a boy who's suffering from nightmares. The album inspired the TV special Alice Cooper The Nightmare, a worldwide 1975 concert tour, and the Welcome to My Nightmare concept film.
Forget all you know, or all you think you know about shock rock. Forget Slipknot, forget Marilyn Manson, etc. This is Alice Cooper, the first and probably still the best, the daddy of shock rock. After Billion Dollar Babies had seen the Alice Cooper band barred from touring across much of the globe, including here in the UK, the band split, and Alice gave us his first solo project, the concept album, that is Welcome to My Nightmare. Before we get into the songs, Welcome to My Nightmare, what is it? Well, the sleeve shows a besuited Alice, complete with trademark top hat on a background of bugs and assorted creepy crawlies, and is ranked 19th in the top 100 covers of all time. Alice was joined by the members of Lou Reed's band for the recording of this album, and played in sequence, as we said. The songs form a journey through the nightmares of the adolescent Stephen. The monologue in Devil's Food is provided by the fantastic voice of the great Vincent Price.
So, we open our journey with the track called Welcome to My Nightmare. This song has a mix of disco, jazz, and hard rock. The track's lyrics are pretty simple, and it's an introduction to the album and a story as a whole. When I first listened to this track, my mum came into my room and said, "What is that? It sounds like 1970s porno music." And I would 100% agree.
Well, Welcome to My Nightmare. It's a bluesy introduction into the dream world of the album that doesn't give too much away. In this, another bad dream, or as suggests throughout the song and the album, is it a total breakdown?
Fun fact about the song, it did appear alongside Alice Cooper on The Muppet Show, which is a kid's show. It's worldwide, isn't it, I suppose, The Muppet Show?
Oh, yeah.
In the episode of The Muppet Show it appears on, Alice Cooper tries to get Miss Piggy and Kermit to sell their souls, which, for a children's programme, is very messed up. We then continue with our journey with The Devil's Food. This is like a slow jam song played by a hard rock band. The song brings up Stephen's abusive relationship, which we hear more about on later tracks on the album. The song features a long spoken section again. This, of course, is horror star Vincent Price. It makes reference to all the insects, how they kill, and most importantly, the Black Widow spider.
Yeah, the opening lines declare he's getting ready for the lady, and she is the devil's food. This leads into a distinct monologue, as we said, by Vincent Price. It goes on to explain the horrors of mating with the Black Widow.
Which then leads us on to track 3, which, funnily enough, is called The Black Widow. This song is again about the spider mentioned in the previous song. Stephen's trapped on a giant spider web, and believes in order to make it out, he just has to obey the Black Widow.
Yeah, the Black Widow, this is a classic glam rock track. It's got its usual driving guitars and catchy chorus line. It hooks you into the tale of a dangerous liaison, the Black Widow. You mate with the Black Widow, she'll eat you alive. It's cleverly scripted and put together, this track.
Perfect. And another brand new fun fact from Ethan's Fun Fact Corner. The song is also covered by Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden for Humanary Stew, which is an Alice Cooper tribute album. So there's a fun fact for all you Maiden heads out there. We then move on in our story with track 4, which is called Some Folks. What are your thoughts on Some Folks?
Some Folks is a background of a 40s show tune. It opens this track, which leads to eventually a stronger guitar hook and back again, whilst our protagonist is looking for something he feels he can't do without, and at the same time he feels he's not a complete man until he finds what he's looking for. You sometimes feel, maybe, is he looking for love? We find out it's a bit more sinister than that.
Yeah, so in my opinion, a lot of the lines said in this song do make reference to sort of heroin and addiction as a whole. Maybe in Stephen's world, addiction is a nightmare. We know he's an alcoholic. It wouldn't surprise us if he struggled with other drug-related problems. maybe this is something that he truly fears as well. The song mixes a very jazzy musical sound, in my opinion, with very dark and disturbing lyrics for almost a sick sounding track. To me, in my opinion, the music mirrors drugs. They sound fun but horrifying once you get into them. This then takes us on to track 5, Only Women Bleed. What are your thoughts on Only Women Bleed? Because I know we have some differing opinions.
Yeah, we do. But I find Only Women Bleed is a subtle ballad with a distinctive play on words. Only women bleed, whilst their man smokes, drinks, and don't come home at all. Now, this song underlines the suffering of women in the marital home of the 70s. And, you know, it also has traits of, the abuse, sometimes physical, sometimes mental, sometimes emotional, that women in the marital home suffer. You feel... I feel that this is sung almost in a third party, where Stephen is watching as his mother has these issues and goes through these issues, whereas Ethan believes that Stephen is the perpetrator. But go on.
Yeah, so I will be honest, when I did my research, one of the places I looked was Genius. What they do is they break down lyrics, but they also have the fans break them down as well. So it seems to be a very wide opinion that this song is about Stephen being abusive. In a sense, it's all about how he's an alcoholic, he abuses his wife, and she just takes it. Because, in his opinion, Stephen's opinion, that is not Alice's, only women can get their heart broken because they have no choice. But a man can do whatever he wants. It's obvious throughout the song that Stephen's wife is mistreated by him, and that's a fair comment. Towards the end of the song, it feels like she's desperately hoping, almost begging for something or somebody to show him the pain he is causing her. So yeah, in my opinion, as mentioned, that I believe it is about the abuse. There's another loud bike gone past. And you know, it's almost like a scary track to listen to, because this is a nightmare. And let's not forget that this is somebody's nightmare, so it's never going to be pleasant, and it's not going to be something you want to listen to. But it seems like the situation is that he does abuse her. The song could be a third party, or it could be him, and we'll leave that up for your interpretation. That's the beauty of music.
Yeah, what I will say is throughout the track, and I this is a track that I really do rate. I think it is pure melodic genius right through.
100%. As ballads go, it's up there. It's right up there along the same lines as I Don't Want to Miss a Thing, in my opinion. This then takes us on to track 6, Department of Youth. Now, this is probably my favourite song on the album. I think it's brilliant. The song doesn't really have much to do with our story, however it could be a representation of Stephen as a child. This has been widely considered. To me, that makes sense though. The song's almost rebellious through the eyes of a child. It's something that bands leaned into a lot back in the day, and I know you lived back in the day and I didn't.
Thanks.
But across the 70s, we had, in the early 70s, we had Schools Out, which was another Alice Cooper banger. We then had this, that was then followed by Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall, that was in 1979. Throughout the 70s, we also had the Sex Pistols, which were very much rebellious to literally everything. If you gave them a cause, they were rebellious to it. Fun fact, Welcome to My Nightmare and The Wall are both actually produced by Bob Ezrin. So that could be the link there between the rebellious children.
Yeah, I think the Department of Youth, it's a typical Alice Cooper romp. It is in the vein of Schools Out and Elected. It's a celebration of the youth of America at the time of its recording. I also feel that Department of Youth slightly slips away from the album. It's one of those tracks, it was the first single off of the album, and I think it was cut as a single and added to the album. Because it is one of those, it is a single song.
100%. This then takes us on to track 7, which is a track called Cold Ethel. So the song lyrics have a double meaning. Ethel is a play on ethanol, which is pure alcohol, as well as a woman Ethel, who we learn in the song Stephen may like to have necrophilic sex with. which is pretty messed up for a music
You're
album.
pitching my line there.
100%. I am. Deal with it. The song itself features a very repetitive cowbell, which everyone loves. It's the first thing I could point out when I listened to the song is I heard the cowbell and I automatically thought of Don't Fear the Reaper. And the cowbell is accompanied by a glam rock guitar riff, one of the best on the album. The music's catchy, the song lyrics are gross, a reoccurring theme on this album. What are your thoughts on Cold Ethel?
Cold Ethel gives us the depravity of Stephen's nightmare. They're all found in this take of necrophilia. Please remember, this is a nightmare. Musically, the guitar is driven throughout, and sudden ending for what is a rather up-tempo tune with such a depraved lyrical meaning.
Of course, and this then takes us on to Years Ago, which is almost, in my eyes, like the start of another 3-song arc. Years Ago brings up Stephen as a child, and at this point it's almost like he's nearing the end of the nightmare. Ironic, because we're nearing the end of the album. He reflects on his neglected childhood. His inner conscience is telling him it's time to grow up. The voice he refers to as the end of his mum is actually his wife, who is begging for him to come home, almost like she's begging for him to come out of this nightmare. What are your thoughts about the story of the song first?
Yeah, track 8 years ago, as you say, it looks back through Stephen's childhood, his broken toys and promises from his mum as he grows into a mentally broken man. And I think that the pressures that he's put himself under through his upbringing is what leads him to the treatment of his wife in much the same vein. It's what he grew up with, it's what he knows, and he thinks this is the way that the man should behave.
Right, okay. So the song itself is slow, it's sad. Stephen confesses that much like his toys, he's broken. They also make reference to a carnival. So a carnival is like a fun escape for children, but Stephen's is closed. All the issues he's had are catching up to him. Something that we all find scary.
Yeah.
This then takes us on to the second part of this sort of individual arc with Stephen. What are your thoughts on Stephen?
Yeah, the track Stephen, this is Stephen's dreams taking a turn for the worse, as the track seems to follow Stephen watching his own death. Or is he watching the death of his mother or other people? You don't quite get it. The majority of the track, as I said, features on him looking down at himself at his own death. So I think that's where the emphasis should be put. Watching your own death, that's got to be a scary nightmare, hasn't it?
100%. So yeah, for me, Stephen's the continuation of our story arc that's just been introduced. It carries on with the story of him as a child and having a child's mentality due to the childhood trauma. He hears his mother, or so he thinks, calling out to him to try and wake him up. Turns out this is his wife, who he then murders, as you do. The song, to me, has like a piano in the opening, which is almost in the style of Tubular Bells. It's slow, methodical, like most songs on this album have been, before it breaks into a musical-esque Stephen gang vocal, before reverting back to its original pace.
That takes us into track 10. Track 10 is The Awakening. In The Awakening, Stephen is walking through his basement looking for his wife when he realises his hand is dripping with blood. This is a low tune. It's got tinkling in the background with pianos and cymbals. This could well be a sort of 70s B-movie, horror movie flick. That eerie piano tinkling away just before the slasher gets his latest victim.
100%, and that's something that I felt throughout the album. The music itself does play itself like a film. You can really picture the scenes, you can really picture what's happening, you can picture the relationship Stephen has, you can picture what he's going through almost, which I think is amazing to be able to do with just your words, essentially, and the instruments behind you. And a lot of that is down to Bob Ezrin. He played all the synths, all the pianos for this album, and he does so really well. So yeah, at this point, I've got that Stephen almost finally awakes from his nightmare. He knows it's a dream, he thinks he's been sleepwalking. Then he realises that he's murdered his wife, as mentioned. The song itself is short and slow. It's almost chilling when the drums kick in as he realises what he's done. There's nothing else really to say about this song. It's 100% what it says on the tin. The story's there. It's there.
It is, and I think to me, that's part of the beauty of Alice Cooper's music. They do exactly what they say on the tin. End of.
100%. So that then takes us to the final song on the album. So a bit of a short episode this week, but I'm sure we'll have a lot to say about it come the end. So the final track on this album is called Escape. After all Stephen has been through on this album, he decides he needs to escape. He does so, to be completely honest. He does this through drinking alcohol, escaping the real world, not the world that he's committed crimes in. And it's with that our story ends.
Yeah, Escape is another typical 70s glam rock tune. It's joyfully bouncing along, but in the song itself, Stephen is looking for a way out of his nightmares, seeking help, and it mentions in the song he goes to his doctors, but all he does is steal his mascara. He goes to his loved ones, but all he does is get another drink. As you say, the escape eventually comes for Stephen in his breakdown. I'm lucky enough that I'm of an age where I saw the video of the stage show for Welcome to My Nightmare, and remember that track 11, Escape, he comes out and he is wearing a full straight jacket with his arms tied up behind him, so you know with the visual presence that you don't get listening to the album that this Stephen has had his full breakdown. He's gone, he's over it.
So the song for me has a very similar sound to Cold Ethel. It's very cheery, and you can almost see credits rolling. A lot of people, for me, it related to the end scene of Joker, where they've got that Frank Sinatra song.
Yep.
And it's like very calm, and it's almost like fun to listen to, and you sort of forget about what you've just seen, which is amazing for the film and the album. You sort of, this journey that you've been through has a payoff, and the payoff isn't one that you like, but the music makes you think it's good because he's escaped. What has he escaped? We can leave that up to interpretation. It could be what he's done, it could be the nightmare that he's been through, which I believe is the most obvious version.
I mean, overall, the story of the record is one of a young man whose nightmares come from his lack of love. He's being raised in a broken home, a mum who flits from boyfriend to boyfriend. Stephen feels a deep sense of loneliness, and in later life he struggles to find love himself in a misunderstanding society, and he follows in a path similar to that of his mum and his parents, where he becomes abusive to his wife, and eventually through his nightmares, we believe potentially murdering her.
But just potentially. For me, one thing I noticed throughout listening to the album was the difference in tone between the topics. So when topics like murder, alcohol, drugs, all of these horrible things were brought up, the music behind it was cheery and fun. And then when we brought up the real topics and we got into why everything was almost sad and depressing, like, I don't know, almost like Alice wanted you to feel that Stephen was having the time of his life through the music, doing all these drugs and drinking all this alcohol, and then in reality, he's no happier than the rest of us. And I think that was done very well, to be completely honest. I think it was fantastic the way that was carried out. Overall, for me, the album is a letdown, though. Throughout the album, I was waiting for this big explosive moment, something to really go. And even when that does come in the album with songs like Cold Ethel, it's underwhelming, which is also what I believe she said, by the way. For me, an Icon score of 4 out of 10. It just didn't do it for me.
Okay, let's rewind a little bit here, because we did with the last album. We had a 4-part rundown, and the 4-part rundown is this: best track on the album, Ethan.
Best track on the album for me is probably got to be Cold Ethel.
Yeah, Only Women Bleed. It is pure genius the way that is put together. All right. Worst track?
There is quite a few I would consider as the worst. For me, Welcome to My Nightmare. I really didn't like that track at all.
Yeah. For me, it's Devil's Food. It's too much. Vincent Price, the legend that he is, the voice that he has, the monologue on that song is way, way, way too long. We're not talking, the intro to Number of the Beast here. We're talking almost a 4-minute monologue stuck in the middle of an album.
Yeah, and what was crazy about that was I was watching the time bar on Spotify, and the first minute and a half is actual music, and then the rest of the 4-minute song is Vincent Price talking.
Exactly.
Which, yeah, I completely agree is too long, but it suits.
Is the album iconic? Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, it's an iconic album.
You know, as I said, the artwork for the album is 19th best of all time. It's one of those albums. This album became iconic. It became legendary due to that artwork and due to the stage show that went with it. The actual album itself, as Ethan said, is a little bit of a letdown in its way. Personally, my Iconosphere score on this, I still give it a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Yeah, for me, an iconic album is an album that grips you. It's an album that the music matters most. And just from what I've seen and what I've heard, this album is almost what makes the album iconic is the relation it had afterwards. It's the tour, it's the TV show, it's the concept film.
Yeah, but this is one of those albums you said the music matters most, and it does. But with this album, with Welcome to My Nightmare, it's the story.
Yeah, but I just feel that if you took away the stage show and you took away everything that came afterwards, the album almost flops as a musical album. As a story, it's fantastic, and I'm not doubting that at all. But for me, the album's iconic status is carried by the tour, and it's carried by the things that were produced afterwards. Just from a personal opinion, he's got a pen out now. She's going to probably have a go at me, so no one can hear it. Saying that because I know he likes this album. It was his suggestion on the wheel.
All I was going to say is with the last album we did, we took our two scores and we gave it an iconic score in the middle of those two, and and that was the final score. So the final score for Welcome to My Nightmare is going to be 5.5 out of 10, which means the Black Parade is still the most iconic album that we've done so far.
So far. Which does worry you because that one's only 19 years old.
Right. We're getting to the part of the show where we're going to spin our wheel to find out what album's coming up next week. And while we're doing that, I just got to make a couple of honourable mentions here to people that have been in touch with us since episode 1 went out. The young girl Ruth in Cuba. Yeah, great. So already we're global. Also, Mr. Peter Sincock out there who sent us in a list of 4 albums to try and do our thing with. One of those on that list, Peter, what we're going to do is this, mate. If we ever get to do an iconic album by, what was he called?
Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber. You can come into the studio, mate, and you can do that one with us, okay?
100%. That is not my music taste at all. I love rock music too much to listen to Justin Bieber.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we did say that we would do all iconic albums. Now, we mentioned a particular one last week with Madonna's Like a Virgin. If you challenge us to do something like that, if it's 10, 20 years old and it's worth looking at, we'll definitely give it a go.
Yeah, 100%. So again, in terms of the episode, that's all. We're now going to spin the wheel. Let's find out what's next. It's a very weak spin again. That's 2 in a row. Well, the next album is Fleetwood Mac's Rumours. I'm looking forward to getting into this one. Mm-hmm. I like the crazy story of Fleetwood Mac, so that should be a good episode.
What we did say, every time an album drops out of the Wheel of Fortune, as it were, we were looking for you guys to send us in a nomination for the next album to go in the wheel in its place. We have had a nomination. A guy called Mr. Nick Kingshot has sent us in and said, look, guys, let's get a hold of Electric Ladyland, the classic Jimi Hendrix album, and we'll give that one a coat. So we're going to pop that one into the wheel for next week. So, as you say, that could come out alongside the others, Number of the Beast, The Wall, of the other albums that are already on the wheel.
Perfect. And as always, please like and share on Facebook. That'll be linked below, along with the album that we've just spoken about. Also, as we were just talking about the suggestions there, if you do have any suggestions for any future episodes, please do feel free to email those ones across to letstalkmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's let's with no apostrophe, letstalkmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you all for listening, and hopefully we'll see you all next time.
Thank you.